Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio, and this is America's Lawyer. The Biden administration is creating a new office at the Department of Homeland Security to monitor misinformation, and the impacts of this program could shut down independent media outlets for good. We'll bring you the details. Gas prices they're still going through the roof, but so are the profits that executives are being paid. These large oil companies, they are taking advantage of this situation. We'll tell you how these companies have pulled a massive con on the American public. And Republicans are fighting to stop President Biden from getting rid of the student loan debt. We'll tell you why that fight matters to you. All that and more. It's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. America's Lawyer starts right now. The Department of Homeland Security is about to start cracking down on what they consider to be misinformation, but this program could easily be abused to shut down dissent. Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins joins me to talk about this and many other issues. Farron, I think you have covered this whole misinformation issue more than most progressives, and you've done a great job understanding. First of all, you and I think, when we first started looking at this, I concluded it's not constitutional. I really do believe somebody's going to test it. It's not constitutional, because you can't create something that interferes with the vibrant free speech that we're all entitled to. Now, there are exceptions. Don't get me wrong. There are exceptions. And the exceptions fall within what we call the police power, health, safety, and welfare. So they're trying to hang it on national security, and we're going to do this because when we start looking at this, my prediction is it's going to fail. Somebody's going to test this, but take it from there.
It's a very stupid idea, I think is probably the nicest way I can say this. Is misinformation a huge problem? Absolutely it is, and we know that. We've known that. But you cannot have the government come in and say, okay, we're now in the business of telling you what's real and what's not, what is allowed and what isn't. That's kind of the slippery slope that everybody had worried about, with online, bans and things like that. This is the culmination of it. And this, of course, is a massive problem. The government cannot and should not tell us these things. And the thing I want to point out is each side, left and right, both of them think we're the good guys. Well, guess what? Your good guys, whichever side you're on, they're not going to be in charge of this program all the time. Marjorie Taylor Greene even came out and said this past weekend,
I can't wait.
Oh, imagine what conservatives could do with this. And it's probably the same thing, the powers that'll be abused with this DHS.
Well, let me be a little small here. I got to be. The woman they've put in charge, this Nina Jankowicz, is a complete nutcase. I mean, she's been called an ass clown and everything else. And you know what? She kind of deserves it. Go back and just take a look at some of the videos this woman's done, and you conclude the woman ain't right. And so it's not only that, but you have to have, if you're going to do it, at least do it with somebody who's neutral. What do we know about this woman? We know that she's joined at the hip with Hillary Clinton. She was her cheerleader. She was Biden's cheerleader. And all that does is gives ammunition to the conservatives to say this is a joke. Not only is it constitutional, but you have this nutcase, they call her the Mary Poppins of disinformation, this Jankowicz woman who's running the show. It's a little scary.
Well, it really is. And then again, back to the decision to even do this, what a horrible time for this administration to come out and announce the creation of this. We're in a midterm election. Biden's approval rating is horribly in the toilet. Democrats are struggling. Republicans have captured every narrative possible.
Right.
So they come out and say, okay, well, what if we crack down? No, what a stupid time to give Republicans the opportunity to say, look, here's the censorship we warned you about.
What if Donald Trump, that absolute scary character, I mean, a very scary character, what if Donald Trump had come out and said, hey, I'm going to start a disinformation program? Would these progressives that have said, yeah, this is okay, would they be good with that? Because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
You understand? That's right around the corner. And so look, here's the problem I see. Government is the absolute worst about getting it right. And you have this it fuels distrust by the average American. You've got, go back. We're winning in Afghanistan. We heard that. We heard the argument there that we've got weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We've heard that Putin is responsible for the supply problem in the United States. Putin is responsible for the gas problem. Putin's responsible for inflation. We've learned, these are things that they're promulgated by part of the government for purely political reasons. Or the Chinese lab leak, that it's racist to even talk about it. When you see this again and again and again, the public starts saying, I can't trust any of it. And so we're going to see that really bad with this thing, I think. I think this is going to take off, and we're going to see the edge of, yeah, I told you so. And I think the Republicans, these conservative Republicans are going to use this as a hammer.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the first time this group comes out and slaps any kind of disinformation label on a conservative outlet, a conservative news reporter, a conservative YouTube video, at that point, they're going to use that as really the flashpoint, the rallying point to get everybody on board with them saying, look at this, the government is trying to shut me down. They're trying to take away my free speech. And that is why any kind of targeting of misinformation is very difficult, because you have a right to go out there and spread misinformation. People may not want to hear that, but the government cannot stop you from doing that.
Yeah, censorship, the big picture, censorship is to democracy what lynching is to justice. That's really the equivalent that I see. That's how bad this is. Now, you and I, granted, we are extreme where it comes to censorship. We say, you and I have talked about this a lot of times, it's just dangerous. The market will take care of itself. People will figure it out, but you have to put it out there. And as I look at this right now, and I don't think Biden understands, but the rap on him right now is that he's probably the strongest censorship president. John Adams, they equate him to John Adams, for God's sake,
yes.
Who wanted to shut down the media. So I don't think this is a good move. I think it's just going to give the conservatives more ammunition. By the way, I get these comments, Pat must be a real Republican conservative, but would you please defend me? That's ridiculous. That is so absurd. But you know what we try to do? We try to call balls and strikes, right?
Right, and that's something people have to understand. I get that a lot all the time too with some of my stuff, because sometimes the truth is not flattering for your side.
No, it's
sometimes
not.
The facts don't line up with what you'd want them to do. And that's what we always try to do. We tell these uncomfortable truths, and it's not because we hate you. It's because you got to open your eyes. And that is exactly the opposite of what this program is doing. And if you want the people to be able to spot misinformation, invest in education programs. Train them to do research, to read books.
Maybe take a civics course.
Exactly, and that's how you combat misinformation. But
Well,
you don't do it by closing your eyes and plugging your ears and saying my side is best, the other side is terrible.
I see comments. As crazy it is. You and I have been working together 18 years, something
18.
like that. We go all the way back to what was Air America. Where we were the only progressives out there. It was Al Franken, it was Janine Garofalo, it was Sam Cedar, Bobby Kennedy, it was Cenk Uygur. This incredible mixture of progressives. That's where we started. So when these boneheads write in, they say, Pap, he's crazy right-wing conservatives, or you do, God forbid, you do a story where you actually call balls and strikes. These snowflake types write in and say, oh man, he's just one of them. Write in, say that, I don't care. But go do a little search before you do that. A leaked SCOTUS draft shows that the court's about to overturn Roe v. Wade. Wow, what a story. The impact of something like this, first of all, the Democrats have got to be jubilant about it in a lot of ways, because this could affect the midterms. They're in trouble in the midterms. On the other side, the conservatives say, no, not so fast. This might buoy up the conservatives, because the decision's going to come out in June, right? And then the next move is going to be, well, we need to do legislation to change all that. So there's going to be that immediate flashpoint. Why don't you give me your thought on what's happening?
It's going to happen actually on both sides too. The Democratic-controlled states will say, okay, we need to make sure everything's open and legal. Republican states are going to go back and say, listen, we've been given clearance now. We can pass our laws and restrict this. And of course, bases on both sides are going to be happy about that. But this decision, what this does, And I think the best analysis I've seen, and I wish I remembered who to credit this to, is this is not going to put an end to abortion. This is going to put an end to safe abortion. Right? You're talking about the back alley type stuff that could arise from this. Women's lives could be in danger. And that, of course, is always the concern. And not to mention, just in general, we had this court decision. This was settled.
Well,
it was settled matter.
Precedent for decades, man.
And so you can't just throw precedent out the window, because if you can, okay, then open season on getting rid of Citizens United.
Exactly.
McCutcheon,
that's a great point. If this happens, and if this is true. Now, look, we all know this. We saw the same thing play itself out with Roberts on Obamacare. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, something was leaked. It wasn't the decision, just some phrase was leaked. And all of a sudden, Roberts was going to deep six Obamacare. It was a lie. It was fantasy.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know whether Roberts was committed to A and then turned to B, but it never happened. And as I watch this, I wonder, is there some similarity here?
I feel like there could be a little bit, or at least perhaps that's the motive of the leak.
Yeah.
And so with so many unknowns right now, could this have been a leftist up there that leaked this?
Yeah.
That's certainly a possibility. Could it have been a conservative? That's a possibility. Both sides have reason to believe that this decision would help them in the midterms.
Well,
and one of the analyses I saw from an article from Slate actually talked about, this could be more of a neutral, get the Band-Aid off.
Yes.
So everybody has the reaction before the actual decision.
That's exactly right.
And it's one of those we're going to have to wait and see who it is, what the motive is, who they're working for.
Okay, so who it is? Okay, is it a progressive clerk, whose career is now officially over?
Yeah.
They may make make him or her into a hero. It'll last about 6 months, and their career is over. It really is. There's no, because they all go to work for these silk stocking defense firms, that they don't go to work for.
Conservative, liberal, doesn't matter up there.
They don't do what we do, plaintiffs work. They want to work for Wall Street law firms. So that career is over. They might be a hero for a little while, but it's over. But you raised something that I want to ask you about. Your reaction was that maybe, just maybe, it's a conservative that is leaking this.
Yeah,
let me talk about that a little bit, because that. I don't know that I buy into it, but I think it's a good argument.
Right. It's just one of, obviously several possibilities. One of the possibilities Slate even brings up is maybe this was a justice. That's way too far-fetched. But the conservative side of this is that right now we've got lots of states that currently are drafting legislation to limit abortion. So if a conservative...
Empowers them.
Right. They could have leaked this to say, hey, as you're drafting this, keep in mind, we're about to repeal the whole thing, so you don't have to go with a 13-week ban. You can go with a no-week ban.
Yeah.
You can change this. You can make it illegal, and this is what I'm afraid is going to start happening. Make it illegal for somebody to leave your state to go to a blue state to terminate a pregnancy.
Yeah. Okay.
Texas is already attempting that, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's
that'll never happen. That first of all, that is so unconstitutional. It's beyond.
Well, we thought this would never happen too, though. We're in the land of anything goes at this point.
You're right. For me to say this unconstitutional is almost meaningless anymore.
The Supreme Court's a joke, though, and we have talked about that plenty of times in the past. This entire Supreme Court, top to bottom, has become a joke. It's all partisan hacks.
Yeah,
There's no real rule of law.
And moreover, a lot of this law is established at the federal court level. It's not, the Supreme Court matters, obviously, but a lot of this is enforced at the federal court level, and it can be moved around as people want to move it around. A good lawyer can go in federal court and they can make an argument, for example, just like Obamacare. They almost decimated Obamacare in federal court right here in Pensacola, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Capitol rioter was busted after documenting his crimes in his daily planner. Some stories you read, and this story just cracked me up. This 71-year-old man, he's keeping a daily planner of all the crimes he's committing January 6th at the Capitol. Pick it up from there.
As he's committing them.
Yeah.
So he went in there with his little day planner, and look, we got to read it because this is hilarious. Parked car at 11 a.m. Was at the front of the Capitol building at 12:15. Gates were breached at 1 p.m. Moving up 2 steps at 1:30. got pepper sprayed at 2 p.m., started to leave at 3:30. So even after he got pepper sprayed, he still stayed an hour and a half.
Okay, so, let me take the lawyer. How do you defend it? I mean, he's doing the work for the police, and all they do is they take the video, right? They're videoing all this. They're saying, okay, does this match up to this guy? Says he's pepper sprayed. This guy was such a nut, he started beating on one of the police officers with a pole. So it's on camera.
And he is facing very serious jail time, serious fines for this.
8 years, could be 8 years.
But it's so funny. It's like if you're going to rob a bank and you're like, 11 a.m., put on mask.
9 o'clock, had breakfast, prepared to rob the bank.
Right. That's how stupid so many of these people are. And this, honestly, I've reported on all of these that I can because they are so hilarious to me. This is the dumbest. I got to tell you, this guy here.
This wins the prize in Fair and Cousins.
So far, I mean, I'm sure we'll find dumber eventually, but so far, this is the worst.
Gas prices are at record high, but so are the profits of big oil CEOs, and that's not a coincidence. Look, we could go back all the way to the Carter years and the gas crisis back then, and we saw the same story. Here's the problem. This doesn't have to happen, but Biden can talk about it. He can say, I'm going to do something. Now, we've heard the talk. We've heard all that. Well, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to make this. Nothing happens. You've got the Federal Trade Commission that could shut these people down. They could argue you've got a monopoly going on here. You're price fixing. There's a stack of laws this big that could stop all this. But you have to have a Department of Justice. You have to have a Federal Trade Commission that'll actually go do it. Why won't they do it? I know that's a surprise question. Why won't they do it?
Well, first and foremost, they're all gutless cowards anyway. Secondly, there's that revolving door issue. They go to work for the industry comes and works there. Nice little rotation. Everybody wants the big payday after they leave these government services. You make friends with them, and you don't make friends by putting these people in jail. And so that is the biggest problem that we're seeing with these organizations.
And the administration is afraid of it. Oh my God, we can't make them too mad because we got midterms coming up. Citizens United has given us the chance to take as much money as we want. Why would we really go after them? Look, Biden can talk all he wants. He can talk, he can have his people out front. We're going to do that. It's way past time. Do it. Stop the monopolies. This could be so important that if they start looking into it, you could actually bust up some of these monopolies that are taken. They're cartels. The cartels. Corporate consolidation is nothing different than a cartel, is it?
Absolutely, and that is what we're dealing with, especially with this fossil fuel industry. And to me, one of the worst things about this, in addition to them paying themselves tens of millions of dollars in bonuses in January, then extra millions somehow on top of that.
It was $400 million total.
Yeah, just in compensation for the CEOs.
Right. And plus the extras now, which are $7 million, $10 million bonuses on top of $400 million.
And they get those bonuses because the company is so proud that they're price gouging us, back into having to ride bicycles 30 miles to get to work. But all of this could have been avoided decades ago had we started making that shift.
Of course.
Right? There's no reason to have vehicle fleets that run on gasoline anymore.
Do you know, when they're on the look back to what Carter did? Carter, first of all, Carter was the most misunderstood president. He was a very decent president. I mean, he really was. But it was the same problem that the same problem was he would talk about it, but then he didn't have agencies and regulatory that would execute on it. And back in those gas crises, had they gone ahead and done it then, we wouldn't be having the problem we have now, because in MBA school, they'd be talking, hey, let me tell you the history of what happened when we did this. It opened up this big box of uglies where they came after us for antitrust, collusion, all sorts of things, price gouging. He didn't do it then. And it's the same thing happening all over.
Well, and let's not forget too the early 2000s, right? With the Bush administration.
That's right.
Bush took office, gasoline was 89 cents per gallon. And some of the younger audience may, what? Yeah, you paid $1 a gallon at most. And then during the height of the Bush administration,
you weren't even born then, were you?
I think it was 2005. It was actually even higher than it was like 460 something. Yes. So even higher than it was now. But that is the largest increase in gas prices that we have ever seen in history. And everybody kind of forgets that because, oh, well, we had these conflicts in the Middle East. No, we started wars in the Middle East. And now these oil companies are looking at Russia and Ukraine, and they're saying, we can use this to our advantage. Not only can we use it to just raise prices because why not?
And blame it on Putin.
Right.
The blame game seems to relieve everybody because most people don't take the time. I mean, we have to do this. People watching this program, they're trying to live their lives, right? They're trying to make ends meet. They're trying to go to school or work and raise a family. They don't have time to look behind the stories. I don't blame them for that. But I think a lot of times we have these types that count on that. And we have government regulators that count on that. Nobody's going to find out what I did. Here, this could have been done all the way back in the Carter administration, and it wasn't. There's never been a better time to be a white-collar criminal in America, as prosecutions have hit a new low under the Biden administration. What a surprise. I remember, again, this isn't politics, God forbid. I'm not a right-wing conservative. I'm simply making a statement that tells you what are the balls and what are the strikes. Under the Obama administration, right? His promise was, Wall Street has stolen $8 trillion from us. I'm going to do something about it. Remember the campaign? Yeah. I was actually on talk shows telling people that vote for this guy because he's going to do that.
Get the handcuffs ready.
Get the handcuffs ready was my pitch when I'd go on MSNBC, wherever I went. I was all for it. I was so excited about it. Man, this guy's really going to do something. How did it end?
It didn't happen. And then, of course, because during the Obama years, we did see a decline in these corporate prosecutions. Trump came along, the decline went even further. And every year of the Trump administration, you and I did a segment when this same report came out. I think Public Citizen is the one who does it. They're phenomenal with it. And we talked every year, they're down from the year before. Trump's not prosecuting these people. Okay, well, now we got a full year of Biden under our belts. Same report comes out and says, hey, guess what? As bad as Trump was,
1%.
as bad as Obama was, things have somehow gotten even worse. Only 90, not even prosecutions you could call them.
No, they're investigations.
90 deals, really,
right.
to let you off with this corporate leniency, as they call it now.
Why, again, I'm going to throw this out there again until you're tired of me asking these questions. Why? Isn't it the same issue that the politicians are afraid that they're going to lose money if they go after the people that have the money? Regulators are looking for jobs. They're never going to do what has to be done. Corporate media most of the time is totally asleep at the wheel, or they have some big advertising advertiser spending a gazillion dollars on NBC or CBS. They're not going to do a story like this. So where does it stop unless we have a Department of Justice that takes it on themselves and just goes after these folks, right?
Well, the problem with the DOJ is usually even much worse than we see at these other agencies, because it gets stacked with these lawyers who come from these law firms that, oh, you were just my client.
Right.
Last year I was in court defending you,
right.
and now I'm not going to go after you.
Right.
You're my buddies. We went golfing after I won your big case for you.
That's so true. Remember the HSBC story we did?
Yeah.
Okay, HSBC washing money for terrorists. We're handling that case. We are the people handling that case where the banks were washing money for terrorists. HSBC signs a 16-page document. In there they say, yes, we did wash money, billions of dollars. Yes, we knew that human lives were at risk, contractors' lives from all over the world, soldiers from all over the world at risk. We knew what we were doing. We understood where the money was going. It's right there in 16 pages. They admit all of it. Do you know what was done, Eric Holder, under Obama? You know what happened? Nobody was even criminally investigated. Nobody went to jail. They fined him $1.6 billion. Yep. Who paid for that $1.6 billion?
Most of that gets shifted back onto the taxpayers through all of these loopholes and clever accounting methods. And of course, they made way more than $1.6 billion off of the money laundering. So they profited from it. Nobody goes to jail. And that $1.6 billion fine just becomes a fee at that point.
The number was $100 million. $100 billion is what they made.
So 1%.
Yeah, 1%.
That's your 1% fee, basically, for doing crime.
Okay, so here's what is happening now. We have bid rigging going on from Wall Street, insider trading, lying to investors, spying on American citizens. Big tech is out of control, and this administration is asleep at the wheel. Now, Biden, in his mind, he might think something's happening. Who knows? I don't know what's going on in the guy's mind, but nothing is happening.
Right, and it all comes back to Merrick Garland, which, of course, is why many years ago, I think on Free Speech TV, you and I sat here doing segments about why Merrick Garland is a bad pick for the Supreme Court, because he's a big friend of corporations, terrible on environmental issues, and he's no different, even worse actually, as Attorney General of the United States.
It's happening right as we speak. Republicans in the Senate have drafted legislation to stop President Biden from forgiving student loan debts ahead of the midterms. I love your position on this, Farron. Your position is, if we're going to save the midterms for the Democrats, this is what they must do.
Yep.
At least this gives them a fighting chance in the midterms. Why wouldn't we do that? We spend $800 billion on the Pentagon.
A year.
And we can't say to these students, bless your heart, God bless you, you got a college education, you tried to better yourself, you did all these things that we ask you to do as a democracy, and now we want you to be in debt for the rest of your damn life.
Right, and you know, the interest rates on these loans have gone through the roof. The cost of college has risen exponentially in the last 20 years. And we beat it into these kids' brains in high school. You will be nothing in your life if you don't go to college. We shame them into going to college and then tell them, oh, we just take out a $40,000 a year loan. You can pay it back. You'll get a great job coming out of college to pay these off. Well, no. Those great jobs may have existed in the 70s and 80s, early 80s. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I came out of law school almost $250,000 in debt. I know you had a huge debt that you had to pay off too. And you're having to pay that debt off when you're trying to start your life.
Right.
You're getting married, you're having children, you're trying to become part of the workforce in America, you're trying to better yourself. And then every month you're getting this bill, and the worst part about it is, let me call another ball and strike. You know what? The Democrats took the right of that student to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
In other words, everything could be falling down. The Democrat bill, this is a Democratic bill that said that student may not declare bankruptcy. And of course, the Republicans, oh my God, they jumped all over it. Yeah, we're with you on that. Yeah. We're going to make this person pay until it hurts. And this is government money. We're being short-sighted if we don't do this. But you got Republicans trying to stop it right now.
Right. They've got this legislation that would, remove this ability, basically declare he can't do it. But of course, they don't even have the numbers to get it passed. But by passing the legislation, what they're doing is acknowledging that he can do this. And some of them are saying, well, this is just bribery. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Look, I honestly don't care what you want to call it.
I don't care how this qualified.
Right. I mean, we got $1.9 trillion in student loan debt.
Yes.
Like you said, this was the government's money for the most part.
They can do it over time. There's all kinds of ways to get this. And, the argument is, well, we can't afford $1 trillion. Really? We're handing money out like a drunk sailor all over the world, and we can't take care of these students that have done what we've asked them to do. Go to college, get better. They've done that.
Well, and the other argument, too, is, well, this will tank the economy. Really? Because we haven't been paying for 2 years now, and nothing bad has happened with that.
Yeah, Trump gave a stand down. He gave a stand down on the debt, right?
Yeah, he froze the payments, and they're still frozen now.
And here's a bit of good news. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis actually vetoed a bill that would have killed rooftop solar power in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? Let me take a minute to really tell you what's on my mind about this. Two of the people in the state of Florida are, one of them, Alex Andrade. His name is Alex Andrade. Now, he's a representative. He signed off on this. Bradley, who's from Jacksonville, it was her bill in the Senate. What they were trying to do is say, no, you can't use solar energy because it'll cost Florida Power and Light money. This is the ugliest story I've ever seen. Thank God DeSantis at least said, I'm going to veto that one, baby. It ain't going to make it through.
Right. I was shocked when this decision. I had to read it about 5 times just to make sure, did he actually do this? Because this doesn't seem like something we'd see from DeSantis, but I'll give him credit where it's due. This was a good move by him.
Yeah.
Like you said, here in the state of Florida, we have a law in place that says if you got your rooftop solar panels, which is only 90,000 residents in Florida, whatever's extra you don't use, you sell it back to the power company. They give you money.
Yeah,
and that's it.
What bothered me, Alex Andrade is a punk. Okay, he's right from here from Pensacola. He signed off on this. His life experience is almost zero. It really is. His life experience is zero. He doesn't understand that right now, Florida Power and Light has raised the rates so high that a mother of 3 that used to be paying $100 a month is now paying $400 a month. To Alex Andrade, that was just fine. And you know what? Alex Andrade is in for a really rude awakening with the campaign I'm getting ready to start.
Well,
here.
and this is, Florida residents that have now been sucked into Florida Power and Light because they've grown their monopoly here. They're pissed. Left is pissed. The right is pissed. Everybody is angry about this. I mean, personally, I've seen my power bill go up by 40 to 50%.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just in the last couple months here.
Well, everybody in Florida.
Right.
And it's not just a Florida story. You understand, this is all controlled by a company called NextEra. NextEra owns utility companies all over the country. This is taking place in California right now. In California, the Alex Andrades of California tried to shut down the solar energy in California too. Now, what's wrong with putting a solar panel on top of your house? Do what we're telling everybody to do. Use green energy. That these guys know we didn't want to let them do that because it was going to cost the people who are giving us campaign money, it's going to cost them money. Bradley from Jacksonville, who signed off on this, this is her bill, she was paid $10,000 by NextEra just to put her name on this. Farron, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
As many as 27,000 Main Street investors are at risk of losing part of their retirement or investment savings after GWG declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy last month. Attorney Michael Bixby joins me now to explain this, and this is a guy that deals with these sociopaths all the time. This story is really troubling. Tell us a little bit about what these Wall Street hustlers did here.
Sure. So GWG Holdings it's an alternative asset management company, PAP, and what they did, their business model was to buy life insurance policies. So the company would go out and buy life insurance policies. If you had a life insurance policy on yourself and you didn't want it anymore, you could sell it to them. Maybe it was getting too expensive for you. And their whole business model was based on raising money from investors to go out and buy these life insurance policies.
Betting on death is what they were doing.
They were betting on death, and here's what they were doing. They were using non-traditional models to do it. So they said, we're not going to follow the standard actuarial models. We've got our own things that we're going to do. And it was extremely risky because if they were wrong even by a little bit, they basically, PAP, they issued bonds. And they had payments that were due to the bondholders that they had to meet. And what happened is they stopped being able to issue their bonds. And in 2021, they didn't issue some financial statements, some SEC filings, their auditor resigned, and basically their ability to go get new people to invest in the bonds to be able to continue paying for the bonds and invest with other life insurance policies, it dried up.
In other words, the investment, they would stay ahead of going bankrupt by selling more, almost like a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? I mean, there's no difference. I think a headline that I saw in here is they were borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Anytime we see that in Wall Street, that's a Ponzi scheme. Now, my guess is the DOJ will do nothing about it. Nobody will be prosecuted. But put that in terms of who was affected here. Let the viewers understand who's the risk.
That's exactly, I think, the important thing, Pap, is you understand, because this isn't just, a hedge fund did something crazy and the hedge fund owners are now. What we're talking about here is literally Main Street investors. Mm-hmm. We're talking about over 25,000 individuals. These are retail investors who were sold these bonds. because it wasn't. The hedge funds are probably too smart to really make a major investment in these things. We're talking about mom and pop investors. We're talking about people that I represent, teachers, nurses, regular folks, working folks who went to a financial advisor who told them, I have this great bond for you.
Now, are you handling the case?
Yes.
Okay, and as you look at the case, my guess is this. When you micromanage who's in charge, you're going to find that the folks involved have past histories of similar kinds of deals, which brings me to this. Why in the world won't our Department of Justice prosecute these folks? Yeah, they're dressed up in Armani suits, they drive Bentleys, but they got MBAs from Harvard and Yale. But why won't the DOJ just prosecute them just like we would a kid selling marijuana on the street corner?
No, Pap, I mean, this is a constant problem. You and I have talked about this before many times. And the issue is what these Wall Street firms have learned, what these investment companies have learned is, hey, we're going to have this stack of disclosure documents they can plop on the table that's that thick. And essentially what they did, even in their bankruptcy filing, they said, well, we told you we were going to do this. We told you that we could use your bond payments to us, where you purchased the bond, to pay other investors. And so they're going to tell the DOJ, they're going to tell any of the authorities, we disclosed this. We properly disclosed it to everyone, which brings me to the relationship. How did the people end up in this? The teachers and the nurses
Right.
and the other normal people,
Right.
They didn't go and find it themselves. We're not talking about, Wall Street bets type investors with GameStop. We're talking about retirees, regular people who went to a financial advisor who told them, hey, I've got this bond. And you think of a bond, bonds are secure, right?
Right.
Bonds
That's
supposed
the safest thing you always think about is I'm going to put my money in bonds. I don't want to put it in equities because I can lose everything.
That's exactly the thought. So bonds supposed to be backed by something. The problem with these were high yield, extremely risky, and they were illiquid. You couldn't trade them. So these investors were told, some of the people I've spoken to were told they were safe, which is the exact opposite of what it is. And what's crazy about this, if you look at, because it's brokerage firms, it's Wall Street firms all around the country who are recommending this and selling it. And it's actually a small group. It's sort of a cabal of these certain Wall Street groups that were actually selling the GWG bonds to their clients.
Well, and the problem is until you start throwing brokers in prison, until you start throwing the folks that engineered this in prison, in the next 20 years, they're going to be talking about this in their Harvard MBA school. You know what? These guys got away with it. It's worth the risk. Here's what's interesting to me. So many things you said there is interesting, but one thing, what you described was they put it in the documents, and I'm sure the writing was tiny, but more importantly, they basically, it sounds like they basically said, we're going to steal from you. If in the end, we're going to steal from you, but we're disclosing that we're going to steal from you. Therefore, under the SEC rules, it's okay. Is that kind of what happened here?
That's the argument, but here's the good news when it comes particularly to the brokerage firms and brokers and advisors who are selling this, Pap, because the FINRA guidance in a lot of these cases that I'm handling are in FINRA arbitration, and that's the good news, I think, for investors, is that somebody who was missold this, a retiree, somebody who's elderly, or somebody who couldn't take on this type of speculative risk, even if they were handed the disclosure documents, what FINRA says, at least, and we argue, is that you can't lie to someone and then hand them a piece of paper saying, I just lied to you.
In other words, they've anticipated it because we've seen Wall Street do it so much. Wall Street creates a document.
Yep.
It's a 100-page document. Somewhere in the document it says, we might be lying to you, and you know what? We might even be stealing your money, but we're disclosing that possibility to you, therefore we're protected. And then finally the SEC comes in and says, let's rewrite that a little bit. Because the SEC they're dead on arrival. It's the most useless, it's almost as useless as the EPA or the FDA, almost. But they come in and they say, we're going to fix that at least, right?
Well, partially. So, I mean, if you look at how that's actually implemented, I think that there's definite guidance there that we use in our cases, but the reality is the SEC using that in their prosecutions? Are they using that? Not so much.
Yeah.
Really. So it's there. There's helpful things. The good news to me and the message is that the investors who are in this stuff, they still have an option. They still have the ability, even if GWG through their bankruptcy, maybe there's no money left at the end of the day, people who are sold this by their broker and financial advisor have hope. Those are the type of people that I'm representing, that our firm is representing, me, Peter Mouget, the rest of our team, where we're handling these claims and we're fighting against these brokerage firms that knew. I mean, if you go back to 2015, there's a research report before most of the people were even sold this thing. You know what it said about these things? It literally said that rob Peter to pay Paul, borrow from Peter to pay Paul. It called it unrealistic assumptions. It said things like fantastical fantasies about this investment. So this was known. The brokerage firm should have known this.
Don't you expect your broker to know that? Isn't it like going to a doctor and the doctor says, you know, I haven't kept up with literature and I didn't know they had something called a pacemaker that could save your life. I'm sorry. And this is the same thing. I mean,
it's exactly the same thing, Pat.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that article. I'm your broker. I'm the person you rely on. And the other problem is when you have a pension program that buys by the gazillions, nobody's paying attention to that, are they?
That's exactly right. And what the brokers want to do, the financial advisors want to do, is when it comes down to brass tacks, they want to say, I'm a used car salesman. They want to say, no, I don't actually owe you any duties. And they'll do that. You would not believe it. It shocks the clients that I represent.
It says, you ought to expect that from us because I don't have an education. Do you realize part of the defenses I've seen is the broker says, I really don't have an education to give you advice. I used to be, I used to be a car salesman.
Yeah.
I used to be an insurance salesman, but now I'm your broker. We see it all the time, don't we?
It's wild, it's unacceptable, and it's something where we need to have people held accountable. That's what we're working to do.
Any chance you can get any of these guys thrown in jail?
I highly doubt that, but I do think that there's at least something for being able to recover what people lost if we bring claims.
Yeah. Michael Bixby, thank you for joining me. Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
That's all for this week, but you can find all of today's videos on YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Ring of Fire. The videos are going to be posted throughout the week, and you can follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where every week we tell you stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers don't allow them to tell those stories, or their political connections just won't permit it. We'll see you next time.